Hi, it's Tracy from Two Rocks Tarot, and today I'm doing a long overdue video. I'm going to be actually showing you a comparison from Titania's fortune cards. So as you can see, I've got two of them. This particular one here is the first edition of Titania's fortune cards, and this is the deck that I actually taught myself how to read tarot with way back in this was published in 2000. So I've had this deck for a long been using this deck, I should say, for a long time. Well, I've been using it for 20 years. So this is what it looks like. Now the difference mainly between this one, as you can see, the first edition, the box is a lot smaller. It also comes with a little box where you actually store your cards in, and it sits in the actual pocket there. So as you can see, it's very neatly put together. She's got it dedicated here. She's got it dedicated to her mother. And it's basically, I myself prefer the first edition. As you can see, the writing is beautiful and clear. It's a good size font. Nothing has changed as far as the books go in comparing, to the second edition, which I'll show you in a minute. It's exactly the same, but with a few differences, and which I'll share with you. So this is my preferred edition. I like the first edition better. It's much more clearer when it comes to the font, as you'll see when I open up the second edition. Now, the first edition is no longer available. I had this actually given to me from one of my wonderful subscribers, Michelle Cracker. So now if we go over, as you can see, the first edition box is a lot, is quite a bit smaller actually than the second edition. So she's changed the colors of it to a pink. Now when it came to the cards, there was no box included in this. The cards just sat in it like that loosely. And as you can see, the backs have changed. So it's a pink back. But this is where it differs. The font is actually no, she didn't. This is the one that she dedicated to her mother. So what was the first one dedicated to then? I know she dedicated to somebody. For Marion Char Lewis, my teacher, and a little bit also for my mum, Sam Charell. The future is just a memory of things we don't know about yet. Here's to the woman, the child, and the mountain. And then this one, she's got in memory of her mother, Sam Charell, 1927 to 2017. To thank her for all she taught me, I hand on now to my girls, her beautiful granddaughter Samantha and Zephyrine, and to all the young women and men too who share their light with others, which is quite beautiful, isn't it? So as you can see, the font is darker. It's a little bit, particularly for those of us who wear glasses, it's very stark, the black against the white, so it's a bold type of a font. But if you go further, so as you can see, it's exactly the same as the first edition, but I just want to go down to the it's a little bit smaller, this actual font. Actually, I thought that was it looked a little bit, unless I was tired. Let me just have a look. Yeah, it is smaller, as you can see. I'll just put them, try to, without bumping this table so much, just so you can see. So you can see the difference in the font, can't you? It's a lot smaller. And it's just, I just find it's too stark, the white, particularly for those of us who wear glasses. It's really it's quite stark, and even though I've got good reading glasses, it kind of looks a little bit, it's kind of sort of blurs a little bit sort of thing. So it's not very good as reading material as the first one. So now I'm just going to bring in the actual decks themselves so you can see the difference. So I'm just going to put it on pause so I can adjust the camera. Now I should have mentioned too that there is this spread in Titania's fortune cards, and this is a spread that I did for many years. As you can see, it's the 34 card spread. Now I have actually done a video on this particular spread, which I'll put a card up there for those of you who are interested in the spread. So I use that for a long time, I didn't even know there was a grant to blue until probably about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. That's the way I've always read it, is this particular way. So as you can see, the cards are completely different. So as I said before, this is the first edition and the pink backings are the second edition. So as you can see, the pink is slightly smaller than the first edition. Now, the reason why my second edition is pretty shiny, is a little bit shiny, is because I have actually put clear contact on both sides, because the cardstock in this deck is absolutely atrocious and it hasn't changed whatsoever, even though this is the second edition. It's just as bad. I would do it to the first edition, but because you can't get this deck anymore, I'm very careful how I use it, and I use my second edition as my main go-to deck. And when I actually do my series of Learn Lenormand with me, I use this one because I want to keep this one in pristine condition, because it's absolutely immaculate. So it's, you know, the deck that my first edition deck just crumbled to bits. It was all peeling, had sticky tape all over it, started to smell, so I ended up throwing it out. But I mean, by God, did I use that deck. So let's turn them over and you'll be able to see what I mean. So this is the, oh, actually, did I start off with the wrong side, did I? Yep, I did. Hang on a minute. All right. I wanted to put it in order. So there we go. So this is the rider. So as you can see, completely different in colors. The first edition is a beautiful deep green, whereas the second edition is more like to me, they look washed out. And I think basically what she's done is she's just changed the backgrounds and used a little bit of a filter to go over it. So there hasn't really been any thought into presenting the images any better. But, you know, I absolutely adore this deck. As those of you who follow my channel will know, it's a deck that is... it's uncanny with its ability to predict. It's the best predictive tool that I have ever used. It just outshines tarot in every single way when it comes to predicting with this particular deck. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, a couple of weeks back, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, in my Lenormand week ahead, I did predict that there was a pregnancy. And I always, you know, pre-record them. So today is Monday, so I'll be doing my week ahead, you know, earlier. I do them usually, I film on the Mondays or the Tuesdays. And I predicted a pregnancy, and then I found out that my soon-to-be daughter-in-law is pregnant. So, you know, it's just got this knack of prediction that's absolutely bloody amazing. So there is the rider. Here is the clover. So as you can see what I mean, it's just very washed out looking. I think the first edition is just outshines the second in each and every way. It doesn't really bother me that she didn't update the images, because like I said, it's an uncanny deck and it will just read absolutely beautifully. But I just wanted to show the actual differences of the actual cards themselves. So what I actually might do is I'll just do them like this way, so you can actually see it and then take it away. Otherwise I'm going to slip and slide everywhere being contacted. So if you do buy this deck, I highly recommend that you put clear contact on them, because they really are, it's just like a paper, the cardstock on there. So it would have been nice if she had actually updated the cardstock in it. And as you can see, you know, with the glow in the first edition, you can see the glow much better than you can in the second one. So it's a shame that she didn't put more thought into actually you know, not really updating the images, because the updated, you don't need to, because this deck tells it like it is. So I don't worry about that. But she could have, I don't know, made them a little bit more clearer. It's fine, I suppose, to change the colours, but I think what she should have spent time on is making the images a little bit more clearer, because they just kind of look blurred to me, especially when you're having it side by side with the first edition. And I also feel that she could have improved the card quality, you know, the cardstock, because the cardstock is terrible. It's one of the worst decks I've ever had when it comes to the cardstock. It truly is. So do yourself a favour and put some clear contact or laminate them, or whatever it is that you do, and that way you'll get many more years of use out of your deck. But I'm not going to be doing that with this first edition because I just don't think you can get it anymore at all. So this one, as you can see, she's completely changed the background. It's a blue, whereas in the first edition it was a green. I kind of like the second. I love these sort of glowing circles that are behind the actual main image of the card. Believe it or not, they do actually add to the meaning of this card. I mean, there is a faint green, lighter green behind this coffin, but with the second edition one, with having the blue background and that sort of almost like a rainbow, it looks like a tunnel. So it actually describes the transition that the death card can mean in the Lenormand. It's completely different to death in the tarot, where the tarot is about rebirth and transformation. This coffin card, when it comes particularly up with next to the scythe, will mean a death, but otherwise it basically stands for stagnant situations, for delays, for blockages. If you've lost an item and you're looking for it and you draw the coffin card, it can indicate that it's locked away in a box, thinking of outside the square, all that sort of thing is what the coffin means in the Lenormand. So, and now we come to the flowers. So as you can see, she's changed the background again. She's made it from the green to the blue. I actually prefer the green over the blue. You can just see, I mean, with it just picks out. I'm just going to grab a pencil so I can point to differences. Where are they? Here it is. I'll use my little pointer. But as you can see, you can see the flowers stand out more than in this bit here. You can pick out the detail, whereas you can't really pick out the detail as well in the second edition. So here we have the scythe, and again, as you can see, she's changed it from the green to the blue. The whip, she's changed. She's kept the blue, but this is more of a vibrant blue, where that's a little bit more darker. Again, I prefer the darker image because the whip is about negativity and stirring things up, sexual tension. Sometimes it can mean that you're having a lot of sex if it comes up next to a male, but it's not necessarily the right kind of sex, if you know what I mean. Bondage, that type of thing, an addiction. All sorts of things the whip card can mean. I'm not going to go into too much detail in the meanings because that's what I'm doing with my Learn Lenormand with me. And here we got the owl. So Titania difference with the normal Lenormand cards is that with the birds you usually see more. Okay, so where she's just done the owl, and again you can see she's changed it from the green to the blue. You can't really, it's just all blurry when you look at it really. This has got much more detail. You can pick up all the sort of the differences in the feathers better, is what I feel. So she has the owl. So, which can, because the birds can sometimes mean siblings and like a group of people. So sometimes when you get the owl, it might be hard to remember that, but that can actually mean it, because this is a solitary bird, whereas normal birds in the Lenormand cards have 2 or 3. But I mean, you can still get that meaning from that card, of course. So then here we come to the child, and she's changed it from an orange background to the green. What I do like about this one is you can see the baby's face a bit more better than you can in that particular one. So I don't really mind that, because you can actually see the face of it. Here we have the fox. So same blue, but you can actually see a more defined ring around this particular fox as well. So it's almost like an eye, you have to be careful when the fox comes up in your readings. Here we've got the bear. So she's kept the purple for the bear, a little bit darker around the muzzle of this particular bear than the first edition. But in this first edition, you can see the blue in the background more than what you can actually in this one. So as you can see, there's very subtle differences, and you wouldn't really know it unless you had been working as I have with this deck for 20 years, and if you've only ever got the first edition. So here we've got the star. So the star, so she's gone again from green to blue. It's kind of funny. This seems to be more golden, which is a little bit more darker in this particular one. And yeah, subtle differences like this do count when you're looking at cards, because if you know, because the star represents wishes. It's much like the star card in the tarot, but if it comes up next to a person card, it means that the person is usually a kind person that wishes well on other people. But because this one, it's got this, you know, this is a lot more darker than these. You know, this is kind of more of an orange and a bright. It kind of, for me, I would represent that sometimes, if I got this card, if I never knew about this card, that you would think that the person might have a little bit of dark wishes about them. There's a little bit of darkness towards them instead of the bright, shiny side of the star, which this card is actually supposed to represent. But I would also tend to be a little bit more cautious, I think, with that star if it come up next to a person, if that makes sense. Here we got the stalk. Again, she's changed it from the green and she's got a pink, more bluey around there. I mean, really, I have to say I prefer the first edition hands over. I really, really do. I love the first edition of this deck. But with reading with this deck, you know, like reading it, it's no difference for me because I've used it for such a long time. So the dog, she's made this more of a pinky type of a background, which is kind of interesting because here you would think the dog could be a love interest because of the pink background, but it really represents friends, a friendly dog, a knight in shining armor. And because this is the orange background, you know, orange is about communication, so it's more of a communication between a friend or a person who's got your best interest in heart, unless, of course, it comes up next to a negative card. And then here we have got the Tower. The Tower is absolutely nothing at all like the Tower in the tarot card. It's a card that can represent isolation, tall, thin people, finding the light from within, which is kind of a little bit hermit-like. It's a card of protection. It's a card of great learning too, like particularly if this came up next to the book card and the cross, it means that person has got great spiritual learning and beliefs. What else is it? It's just it's a different card also, although it can represent, as you can see, it could represent isolation as well, you know. It also represents something or someone that is older, you know. If it falls next to your own card, it means that you probably have a long life, you know, a good long life sort of thing. Yeah, it's also got a touch of fate to this card as well. So it's very, very different to the Tower card in the tarot. Here we've got the Garden, almost exactly the same, except as you can see, this is a little bit more vibrant green. It's just kind of, to me, these are just images are kind of wishy-washy. It's like she's just chucked a filter on it, but hasn't spent that time in sharpening the images in any way. Here we've got the Mountain, and again, as you can see, it is exactly the same, although I would say that, you know, it's a lot more darker around here. It's kind of a little bit darker when you look at the first edition, just that sort of shade darker. This is more blue, whereas this is more grey, so this is more bluey and this is more grey. And again, these subtle differences can actually mean quite a bit when you're actually reading the cards. This is the Road. As you can see, again, it looks the same, whereas this is more darker. The Road is more defined, where that's not as defined as well. You know, and the Road is about journeys, about traveling, trips, following your own spiritual path. You can see here, it's you know, you can hardly see, you know, the trees and everything like that, and you just can't really see it in this one, which is kind of a shame, because when you get that, and if you're searching for something, you'd think that the future looks a bit blurred and not as bright as what you would think when it's this particular card. I mean, I read the Lenormand intuitively as well as what the meanings actually mean, so these sort of things really stand out to me. It's a completely different color, completely crap mouse. I'm sorry, that just looks like shit. The first one is absolutely beautiful. You can see it's you know, it's clear. You can see you can see everything. You can see his, you know, the fur a lot easier. It's just so much better. And as you can see, you see how carefully it's got a little bit of nicks in the side. Now I've been shuffling this so carefully when I do use it, but still that just shows you how poor the cardstock is on this particular deck. And then we've got the heart, again exactly the same, except you can see this more, the lines in the heart more clearly defined than what you do in the other one there. The glow is a little bit brighter behind the heart, which I don't, you know, necessarily mind that. And then we've got the ring, so as you can see, exactly the same, except, you know, this particular ring is a lot more darker, where this is kind of lighter as well. And the ring has got, this one has got more of a bluish shine, where this is more sort of silver. Then we come to the book, the great unknown, the book. You have to search for what you're looking for when this card turns up. Now, if the spine is facing you, it means that it's closed off. You're not going to find out about it. Whereas if the spine, if the open part of the book is facing you, you're more likely to find what you're searching for. So as you can see the, you know, just the definition of the front of the book much more better than you can on this particular one. Again, the different backgrounds is more blue, where this is more of a teal type of a color. And we have the letters as well, which always represents news. Yeah, different. This is like a darker purple, where that's a lighter one. So basically she's what she looks like she's done is she's taken the darker color and made that the background, and then used you know, a lighter blue type of thing at the back of it. You can see the writing better on these particular letters card than the original, but yeah. And here we've got the man in there, all exactly the same. You can probably see his face a little bit better than this particular gentleman over here. So as you can see, these cards are quite psychedelic looking. They're not the prettiest deck, but it's the best deck I've ever read with in my whole 28 years of reading. This deck just wins hand down. So as you can see here, the second female, you know, the dress is more of a darker pink. You can see, you know, that's basically it. The face is pretty much the same. You might even see more of the face than you do in the first edition there. The pink stands out on her nose, which kind of reminds me, you know, of someone who's suffering hay fever. Here we got the lily. And as you can see, she has, you know, to me this more looks like a camellia. It doesn't actually look like a lily, but this is what it stands for, the lily. As you can see, you know, again, the first edition wins hands down. You can see the definition in the flower itself much more better, the, you know, the shadows and the light than what you could really see in this particular deck. And the second edition, I should say. The sun is exactly the same. Although I'd say, you know, this is a little bit darker, which I don't mind, but the sun is supposed to be bright, you know, that's what it represents. So all she's done here is darken the, you know, the actual sun rays itself. Well, this is much more brighter and vibrant, I feel. It's much more relevant to the sun, I feel, because the sun is like the sun card in the tarot. It's a beautiful, it's a card of vitality. So, you know, it just brightens up any aspect. And then we come to the moon, almost exactly the same again, but you can see the definition in the moon better than this particular one. The moon is nothing like the moon card in the tarot. It's got different meanings. It's a much more brighter, hopeful card. It's got none of them undertones of darkness that can sometimes be associated with the moon. Again, I prefer the first. I just prefer the first edition altogether. The key, completely different, gone from green to pink, which I don't like at all. I love this, you know, this looks more like a key, you know. I suppose you could think it's like a golden opportunity, but the key really is a card that unlocks things. So whatever's you're being troubled with that life, you haven't been able to get through, when you throw the key card means that it's going to be unlocked soon. Things will be revealed. So I feel the green reflects that card, this card better, because it's new, it's renewal, whereas the pink is, yeah, I just don't like it. And then we've got the fish card, and as you can see, she's gone from orange to pink. I much prefer the orange again. You know, the fishes are lucky. It's about money, you know, commerce, sales, that type of thing. So yeah, I just think the gold, the orange reflects that better. And then we've got the anchor. So pretty much the same. This is more of a lighter blue, which is sort of like a darker teal. Again, you know, there's more definition and clarity in the first edition. And then we come to our final card, which is the cross, and she has gone from orange to sort of like a pink purpley type of card. And again, of course, I prefer the first edition. So there you have it. I just wanted to show the actual differences between the first edition of Titania's fortune card towards the second. I don't think any great deal of thought has been put into the second one. She could have changed the, you know, actually, let's have a look. The first edition, I think that was published by Quadrille Publishing. So that was actually in London. And let's have a look at the second one. And the second one was published, where is that? Director. So, well, this edition was published in 2018 by Quadrille, an imprint of Hardy Grant Publishing. So it's interesting that there's such a lot of difference between the first and the second in the book. You know, the font is terrible. It's so small, so starkly white. You know, it's just, yeah, it's really weird. But anyway, there you have it. That's Titania's fortune cards. Much prefer the first edition. I love how it's got every card on the back, and compared to, you know, that, it's just very plain and boring in my opinion. But you know, that it is what it is, isn't it? But it would have been nice if some thought had gone into the card quality at least, because the stock is basically, it's just a little bit thicker than paper. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and until next time, this is Tracy.